Good morning, All Souls. Welcome to this community of memory and of hope, where we give and receive, where we bless and are blessed, where we gather in covenant, called forward by the power of love and by our vision of beloved community. I'm Reverend Bill Sinkford. My pronouns are he and him. Each week, we light our chalice to kindle the flame of community once again. We light our chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
Good morning, All Souls. It is my pleasure to welcome our guest director for this morning's music. Francisco Ruiz hails from Long Beach, California, but is originally from Ecuador. You can read all about him in the bio that's in your order of service. But I wanted to share with you that his special gift that he will share with the congregation today is that of circle singing. And so if you are so moved and so inclined to join us in participating, it might be a small gesture of invitation like this. It might be that Francisco comes closer to you in the pews to help encourage us all to be a part of this beautiful, healing, cathartic style of music. We are so grateful to the Beckner Fund for their support of bringing in this guest director series through the spring, and I hope that you will join me in welcoming Francisco to our All Souls community. And we invite you to join in singing our opening hymn, Wake Now My Senses.
Hello, I'm Fred Katz, and I'm your worship associate today. My pronouns are he, him. Welcome to All Souls Church. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, diverse in many ways, but united in our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and in the obligation to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. We invite you to join us as we seek to create a diverse, justice-seeking, spirit-growing community that is true to the vision inherent in our name, All Souls. I'm especially happy to be here on this day of joyful music making with the Jubilee Singers and our guest director, Francisco Ruiz. I'd like to extend a special welcome this morning to those who are new to All Souls or those who are still feeling new. Please raise your hand in person or on Zoom that we may give you a warm All Souls welcome. Are there any visitors? Welcome, visitors. We're glad you're here. If you're in the sanctuary, printed order of service programs are available from the ushers, or you may access the order of service with a QR code on the back of the pew in front of you. Select the green QR code on the right. For those on Zoom, a link to the order of service is in the chat. All Souls has a Share the Plate collection where 50% of all non-pledge contributions go to an outside social organization each month. In February, this is Harriet's Wildest Dreams, honoring Harriet Tubman and centering Black lives most at risk for state-sanctioned violence in the greater Washington area. Their work builds alternatives to oppressive systems through legal empowerment, political and civic education, mass protest, organizing campaigns, and community care programs. When the offering plates arrive later on in the service, please be generous. Please note all the opportunities listed in our Friday email newsletter and in today's order of service. If you're not subscribed, sign up on the All Souls homepage. A link is also in the Zoom chat. After the service, you're invited to Pierce Hall to enjoy coffee and conversation. Pierce Hall is out the door to my left, your right, and across the hall. All Souls recognizes that our city and our church were built on lands taken from indigenous people. We lament this injustice. The closest village to our church site was Nacotchtank, from which the name Anacostia is derived. The residents were part of the Piscataway group of tribes present in the DC and Maryland region. Those people remain in the region to this day. If you're joining us elsewhere, you can research the Native people in the land where you reside, and for all of us who aren't native to this land, one way to practice our commitment to the eighth principle is to find out what Native organizing is happening in your area and how you can support it. Now, as a symbol of the love and welcome that is embodied in our name, let us have the time we call beholding. If you're on Zoom, open up your gallery screen and greet each other. If you are in a sanctuary, please greet each other in the manner that feels best to you, embraces, fist bumps, elbow bumps, or other respectful gestures. And say hello to the folks on Zoom who can see us now through cameras mounted in the rear balcony. All right. Thank you. Let us continue our conversations and greetings after the service in Pierce Hall. And again, welcome to All Souls Church.
There was the earth, there was the sky, and there in the tree there called the line. And there in Eden there was, and there on the green where the tree light stood, and there was snake and there was span, and we're trying to get back to the garden again.
Uma welcome to this abundant space. I've been away on Sundays for a few weeks, so I'm super excited to be back today. It's good to see you. And it is a joy to welcome our director, Francisco, and appreciate the Jubilee Singers monthly, monthly guest conductors are on a workshop schedule. So you can come in and sing with them next month, or the next after, or all the months. I think I'm gonna do it next month, because the next one is with the amazing Melanie Demore. Rehearsals will be on March 9th and 11th, and then you sing on the 12th. Awesome, I'm gonna jump in. So come on in, music, community, they're good for the soul. There is a migrant solidarity organizing meeting today, immediately after the service, about 11:45. We are very excited to welcome an Afghan refugee family this spring. So come and learn more. The location is in the staff lounge. So that is downstairs, lower level, small kitchen at the foot of the elevator or the 15th Street stairs. And at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, February 13th, the All Souls Archives historian, Mara Cherkasky, will present a new story map on early churches and synagogues of Washington, D.C. It's part of this great project called Mapping Segregation in Washington, D.C. It's a great opportunity with her because she is one of the key creative visionaries for this project. So tomorrow night, 7:30, register to get the Zoom link on our website calendar. Next Saturday, February 18th, is Beyond Categorical Thinking. It's an online workshop in 2 parts. You can find out more about the search process for the senior minister that is in play. And there are so many more benefits to this workshop. You can use the training for any aspect of your life where you want additional perspective and range, which could be every situation. And so register for the Zoom link on the website calendar. Moving now to our shared sorrows. The magnitude of human suffering in the Republic of Turkey and in Syria is impossible to imagine fully. You can see the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee homepage to give directly to organizations that are on the ground. There's a red banner across the top of the homepage. We're going to take a moment now just to remember this tragic situation unfolding each day and to hold a small glimpse of that pain in our hearts. A moment for Turkey and Syria. Blessings. At All Souls, our hearts and prayers are also with Kat Winkler, whose Uncle Russell is currently in ICU in Suburban in a sedative coma in acute medical care. To Joe Pangelinan, whose father, Edward, died on February 3rd of pancreatic cancer. Our thoughts are with Joe and Jackie, with their children, Lily, Eddie, Evan, as they gather for the memorial tomorrow. We're thinking of front desk staff David Lindsay, whose cousin, Sedona Dale, and David's best friend, Jacob Ryan, both died in Jamaica on the same day this week. And finally, we close with some celebrations. We welcome Adran Paul Monea, born on January 17th, and we rejoice with parents Bethany and Alex Monea. Love to all, including big sister Marianne, who's 17 months. So thinking of you, Bethany and Alex. Congratulations to Judith Bauer, who I bet is on Zoom. I see you. Who rejoices in the birth of Elliot Francis Pinto Smith on Tuesday, her second great-grandchild. Yay! And now your names and situations, silently or aloud or into the Zoom chat, a moment for shared meditation. And would you join me in meditation today? As we breathe into our seats, we find ground. As we ground our embodied spirits, we find breath. Generosity encourages and nurtures generosity. As we give abundantly with caring, we grow and we thrive. Compassion is a boundless sea. As we hold pain with tenderness, we experience our shared being. And for all that is, we seek presence and love. Blessed be.
Our Unitarian religious ancestors proclaimed a religion of reason. Channing and the other founders still considered themselves Christian, but one of the first things that they gave up in this new religion of reason were the miracle stories in the Bible. No virgin birth, no water from wine, no feeding of the multitude with a few loaves and a couple of fish. No miracles, at least not in the literal sense for them. But we still look back to those stories and search for meaning in them. Do you know the saying that all stories are true and some stories actually happened? It's like that. We look back to those stories in search of strength and power so that we can move forward. We are launching the Spring Generosity Campaign this morning here at All Souls, and some of you may feel that All Souls will need a miracle to be successful. So, I want to share a retelling of that story of the loaves and fishes that I learned from Reverend Barbara Fast. It's called No Less a Miracle. The story is told in a mother's voice. The afternoon was growing cold. From the hillside, I could make out the slate-gray sea of Galilee. Why had I allowed my son Benjamin to drag us here? It's been 3 days, and we are still waiting to see a miracle. It is not as if we can waste the days either. We manage to feed and clothe ourselves, but not much more. And the crowds have become so large. Thousands. People are whispering that he is a Messiah. And Ben has heard him speak, but Ben's a child and not so reliable a witness. People are grumbling about their stomachs too. What little food people carried with them, they have eaten by now. I have a few loaves left, but, well, we thank God at home, of course, but I am not so sure God has much to do with my putting a meal on the table or making clothes for my son's broadening shoulders. Ben runs up. Breathless, he tells me that Jesus wants us to give him whatever food we still have so that he can share it with the crowd. Ben smiles at me and asks, "Where is the bread, Mom?" He asks it so loudly, I am embarrassed. People turn in our direction. "What bread?" I reply. "You know, Mom, the bread you brought, you know." What am I supposed to do? If I give the bread to him, there will be none left for our trip home. If I let on that I have food, well, it will be gone as soon as I turn my back. These people are just like my neighbors. But if I lie to him, I do not want to lose my son. It's all so easy for this Jesus to talk about loving your neighbor. But my life is simply not like that. Trusting one's neighbor, well, it all depends on what for and who. "Come on, Mom," Ben drags me forward. Here, the crowd is thinner. Before me, at a small distance, is this prophet. I can hear his voice. I can see that he has received a few loaves of bread and 4, yes, my God, only 4 fish. Pretty old ones at that, they look to be. Still, he does not seem to be disappointed. He seems grateful. Maybe he will perform a miracle. That's what I've come for. I'd heard that he made water into wine for his cousin's wedding. A miracle, that's what we need. Before I can leave, he asks all of us to sit down, and we grow quiet. He is blessing this little food. He is offering thanks to God. I can feel his gratefulness. And then he breaks the bread and gives it to those who come forward. No miracle after all, no feast for us. But then, I don't know how to say this. He is standing in front of me. He touches my son's head. and he gives me a piece of bread. I raised my eyes and met his eyes. I saw myself through his eyes. And I don't know what else to tell you. I just felt okay. I felt whole, good enough. He loves me. He knew I was hiding those loaves of bread, and he loves me anyway. He gave me this large broken piece of bread, about a quarter of the loaf, and invited me to eat it. He didn't tell me to share the bread with anyone. And then he went on to the next person, sharing all that he had. I felt the loaves inside my cloak. I reached in, I gave Ben 3 of them and sent him running to give them to others. I turned around and started to break another one into pieces for those who were behind me. And I met the eyes of one of them. I saw him in all his brokenness and his hope, like me. His hand was inside his shirt. I thought he was pulling it out of his shirt to reach for a piece of my bread, but he brought out 2 big rounds of flatbread he had hidden away too, like me. He gestured that I should go on and share mine with the others, and I saw him turn around to break bread with those behind him. It seemed that it was the breath of God and not a cold breeze that rustled over us as we shared what we had been so carefully hiding from each other. The story will say that everyone was fed and that there was food left over, and that is true. You ask me, was there a miracle? I can't speak for anyone else, but I will tell you this: I will hold on to that miracle all the days of my life. The miracle was not about the bread. The miracle was that those folks looked at one another and they felt themselves seen for all that they were. Not perfect, no. Perfect is the wrong standard for any of us. As a standard, perfection is a trap because it can never be achieved, and who gets to define what perfection looks like anyway? Perfect takes us down the wrong path. They saw each other's hope and each other's brokenness. That's what the story says. But too much of a focus on the brokenness is a trap as well, because it directs our attention to everything we lack, what we don't have, where we have been compromised and diminished by life, rather than directing our attention to the power that we have and the ways that we have been strengthened and supported and built up. The danger is that the brokenness will obscure our wholeness and our power. On that hillside, they saw themselves through that prophet's eyes, through love's eyes, and felt good enough, felt whole. That's what the story says. They felt whole. They felt loved. And as that prophet shared what little food he had, love's generosity called forth generosity from each of them and from all of them. And the sharing of resources and the pooling of their strength, so that that large community discovered that they already had what they needed to sustain hope. There was bread left over. They had what they needed in abundance. That mother, she wasn't sure why she had allowed herself to be dragged out to that hillside by her son. She wasn't sure. And sometimes we may not be sure why we have come to this church, why we get up on Sunday morning and brush our teeth and head to 16th and Harvard to this church called All Souls, or even sign on to Zoom at 10:30. Sometimes you may not be sure what draws you here. Sometimes it is the music that draws us, We discover that we just need to sing in community. We discover that lifting our voices is why we come, or sometimes for some of us, it is just listening to the music. Sometimes we discover that we need to be reminded of what we care about, to reset our moral compasses, or to be reminded about our gifts and our strengths. Sometimes we need to remember our power. And sometimes we just need to weep in a sanctuary where tears and laughter, song and silence conspire to convince us over and over that we are good enough, that we are lovable, and that we are already loved, that we are loved. That is what we do here, or try to. I think that is what beloved community looks like, what beloved community feels like. And more of us to go against the culture enough, to be naive enough, to be radical enough, to trust that we are in fact loved, all of us, to trust that we are loved, and therefore that we can love. And it takes each of us and all of us, our time and talents and our treasure as well, each of us and all of us, to keep this house a place where love lives, so that that miracle can be here for each of us and all of us when we come. The message of the loaves and fishes story and the message at the heart of this congregation is that when we share our gifts, our time, our talent, and our treasure, and when we truly see one another, we can stop living in scarcity. We can live into a culture of generosity and a culture of abundance and begin living as love shows us how. Now, we are still in the process of creating that culture of generosity and making All Souls sustainable. We made good progress in the fall, and I hope you are all beginning to feel a different sense of energy and hope as the regathering of this church continues. And there will be pledge cards in the pew racks, as there are this morning, throughout this generosity campaign, but I want to encourage you not to fill one out today. I want to encourage you to read the material that will be in your snail mail boxes at home this week before you fill out one of those cards or go to the website to make your pledge. I especially want you to look at the Unitarian Universalist Association's Giving Guide to help you begin thinking and praying if you pray, and then to use the importance of this church to you and to your family as your guide, the sense of hope you find here as your guide when you fill out that pledge card and return it. Our financial goal is significant, and we'll be talking about generosity for the next several weeks, so fair warning. Our financial goal is significant, but so is the love that we find here, the love that we create here in this community. Let that love lead you. Let that love show you the way. The co-chairs of this generosity campaign are Jeff Wilklow and Anna Hargrave. There they are. Both Jeff and Anna are also members of the Stewardship and Fundraising Committee that works with Tracy and me on the broad range of stewardship issues for All Souls. Jeff will be with us in worship next week, but it is my privilege to introduce our other co-chair and lifelong member of All Souls, Anna Hargrave.
Thank you so much, Reverend Bill, for that warm introduction, and Reverend Louise for making sure you all could see me. So, as you mentioned, I was born into this church. My parents met here. So you're probably thinking, of course she pledges. She literally would not exist if it weren't for this church. Now, I'll admit, while growing up, my parents were intentional about trying to instill the importance of giving early on. When I was tiny, they would entrust me with a quarter, which made a very satisfying sound when I plunked it into the collection plate. As I got older, they upgraded it to a whole dollar. And they made me wear these frilly dresses that had no pockets. So the only place I could store my contribution was in my shoe, which for some reason I just found hilarious, because here I was all dolled up and I had this treasure hidden under the sole of my foot. But I want to clarify, that dollar was not my family's entire contribution. I saw my parents take turns writing out the check each week and putting it in the collection plate. When I noticed that they would occasionally fuss at each other about whose turn it was, I could tell that they both really looked forward to the act of giving. But I don't think I understood at the time that they were fulfilling a pledge, that they had made a promise to show up for this community with their time, talent, and treasure. To flash forward to my early 20s, I just graduated college and landed my first real job. I knew it was important to support the church, but I didn't initially pledge. Between my entry-level salary and student loan debt, I felt like the contribution I could make was so small, it wasn't even worth the staff's time of typing it into the computer. So instead of pledging, I figured it would be best to just add to the collection plate whenever I was in church. The thing was, I ended up coming to church a lot. This was after 9/11, and the church was growing exponentially. So connecting with both new and longtime members was so much fun. The music was sublime, and the sermons were deeply moving. Every week in Pierce Hall over coffee hour, I would hear somebody say, "Oh, I felt like that sermon was written for me." And then somebody else would go, "Oh, no, that was my sermon. They wrote that for me." And there were plenty of times I opened up my wallet because I was just so inspired, and I just gave all the cash I had. And when pledge time rolled around again, I looked at how much I was giving over the previous year, and it kind of surprised me. And yet, part of me still felt like my contribution was small compared to the entire budget. That was until I had two realizations. Number one, by only giving when the Spirit moved me, it was almost as if I was unconsciously paying the church for my weekly dose of inspiration. However, if I was traveling or just felt like sleeping in one Sunday, that meant I didn't make a contribution that week. I realized I didn't want to have a transactional relationship with the church, like I was tipping a waiter for good service. Not with this community that means so much to me. The other aha was that even though my contribution might seem small, it could contribute to a living wage for the maintenance team who helps keep the church clean and welcoming. Maybe it could cover part of a staff member's time as they coordinated the caring team to support a grieving family. Perhaps it would let the church buy supplies for a coming-of-age class as the next generation of kids began to articulate who they are and what matters to them. But the church couldn't buy those supplies or pay our staff without commitments from me and many other people. So I decided to pledge for the first time. And it was a bit of a shift. Instead of just giving spontaneously, it meant I got out the UUA's Fair Share Contribution Guide, sat down with my budget, and tried to be really thoughtful and intentional about what I could do that would truly feel generous. A friend once told me, Transformational giving has nothing to do with the amount of your contribution, but rather how the act of giving transforms you. I can attest that making and fulfilling my pledge to All Souls has changed me in ways I couldn't have predicted. One was that rather than feeling my contribution was insignificant, I began to see it at work everywhere. That is a lesson we all need to be reminded of regularly. We are inundated with awful news from around the world every day. It can make you feel like there is nothing you can do in the face of so much heartache. It seems that just when I feel particularly worn down, Sunday rolls around. Whether tuning in on Zoom or sitting in the pews, church reminds me of our individual and collective power. It reminds me that when we bring our gifts and talents, we can create more than any of us could have ever dreamed possible. I'm giving out of gratitude for all the ways the church has enriched my life, and because I know I will need it to continue nourishing my spirit in the future. I hope you too will think about what All Souls means to you and join me in making a pledge to support our community for the coming year. In closing, I will call on the words of Jen Bailey. Our communities are the people we practice doing life with. They are the imperfect folks who call us back to ourselves when we have lost our way, the people to whom we are most accountable and who love us through our messiness and mistakes. Cultivating a community takes time and investment, but when the inevitability of loss and grief, heartache, and pain occur, those relationships have the power to sustain us and see us through. Amen.
A song that calls us to responsibly search within so we can be transformed and then be light to others. This song is called My Son, Hijo Mío.
Buscando en mi interior, dejando el miedo atrás, pude escuchar tu voz, diciéndome al oído, ¿por qué lloras, hijo mío? Te hablé de mi dolor, de mis dudas, mi temor y el ardor del corazón. También de mi verdad, esa de la que no me puedo escapar. Tu mirada me dice, aquí estoy, déjate amar. Searching deep inside, living my my fears behind, I could hear your voice whispering in my ears, "Why the tears, my son?" I spoke to you of my pain, my worries and my fears, and the flame inside my heart. My truth is in your side, I can feel the light, oh no, I can't hide. With a smile you tell me I'm here, let me love you. With a smile you tell me I'm here, let me love you. Building, 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 we are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. 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 We are working to be free. every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Build, build, build it. Building a new way. Building a new way. Sing with us. Building a new way. Peace and freedom is a cry. Peace and freedom is a cry. Peace and freedom is a cry. Without this world will die. Peace and freedom is a cry. Build, 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 build a new way. Building a new way. Building a new
Amen. We are building a new way, but we look back to the wisdom we have learned to chart our path forward. This is the power of Sankofa, the often surprising power we discover when we look back and allow love to show us the way forward. Ashe and amen.
I'm sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. I'm sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. No matter where you go, no matter where you've been, you'll never walk alone. I feel you deep within. And I'm sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. No matter what you feel or what you choose to show, I'm always there for you. And so I want you to know that I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in I'm sending you light to hold you in love. Blessed be. Amen. Ashe.